Member for Dawesville.
Madam Acting Speaker,
Yes.
before I begin, I'd like to thank all of those who've joined me in the gallery here this evening. What the Liberal Party lacks in numbers on this side of the House, I'll try to make up for in the gallery, so thank you everybody. Thank you, Deputy Leader. I'd also like to congratulate the member for Albany in his elevation to the position of Speaker and all those installed as acting speakers. My congratulations also to our state's 30th Premier, his Cabinet and parliamentary team for what was an emphatic victory. I'd like to offer all my best wishes to all members of this place who've been elected to the 40th Parliament. Madam Acting Speaker, I'd like to take the opportunity at the outset to thank the people of the District of Dawesville for their confidence in electing me as their representative. I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to represent such an amazing community and will work hard to ensure that their confidence in me has not been in vain. For much of the last 30 years of my life, my entire drive, my entire dream has been to represent the people as a member of this place. Tonight, Madam Acting Speaker, represents the culmination of that long-held dream. Often, when hearing about my interest in politics and where I'd like to be, many people would ask me, why is it that someone, especially a young person, would ever want to be a Member of Parliament? To me, it was always a very simple answer. I've always wanted to serve the people of Western Australia and help contribute to make Western Australia a better state. This evening, I intend to outline what it is that I hope to achieve and give a preview of the journey that I've had that led me to this place. I'm, in perhaps contrast to the mould of politicians, not one to want to talk about myself too much. I think it's far better to talk about the issues. However, it is important to acknowledge that I'm a very small part of a far larger and more interesting story. I can trace this desire to be a parliamentarian to the front steps of my grandmother's home in South Fremantle, where during the summer break between years 5 and 6 at Woodlapine Primary School in Forestfield, I was telling my gran, who sits in the gallery here tonight, that I wanted to grow up and become a marine biologist. As a reasonably chubby child, she told me that I was far too fat for that career choice and would likely get eaten by sharks. Thank you very much. As a young boy from a struggling eastern suburbs working family, I quickly resolved that I didn't want to get eaten by sharks and instead would like to serve the people people of Western Australia as a Member of Parliament. When I talk about my family of those who've struggled, I do so fondly. For much of my childhood and adolescence, my family have never had a lot of money, but they've always worked hard. My mother emigrated to this country at age 19, fleeing a household she grew up in full of alcohol abuse and domestic violence. She met my father on the Dampier to Wagerup gas pipeline project and then later moved down to Perth with Dad and worked in the same pharmacy in Forestfield for the last 30 years as a retail assistant. My dad, who since age 3 didn't have a father, left his home in Dianella aged 16 to become an apprentice plumber. He is a striving, continual small business operator who has worked in earth moving and civil construction, and that work has meant that he's gone on to contribute to resource projects right around WA. My parents have worked incredibly hard to be where they are today, and like many Western Australians, they've been heavily reliant on the buoyancy of our state's resource industry. When times were good in WA, our family flourished. When times were tough, as they are now, our family has sometimes barely managed to keep their heads above water. No matter how much my parents were struggling, they always taught me that it was important to care about what was happening in the world around us. I can fondly recall my mother, then a member of Greenpeace, teaching me at a very early age about the importance of looking after our environment. At our kitchen table over dinner, she would speak about the need for me to protest the French nuclear testing in the Pacific Ocean, or for governments to do more to address pollution. Dad would also ensure that I was well aware of what was happening in domestic politics. He would always ask me before dinner, see previous statement about chubby child, that who the Prime Minister, Federal Treasurer, State Premier and State Treasurer were before I'd be able to eat my dinner. I am immensely proud of both of my parents for all that they have done, sometimes unknowingly, in getting me here today. Only in a place full of opportunity like Western Australia could my parents, who have battled their entire life, build the foundations to send their only son to Parliament. To my parents, thank you for all that you have done. I am incredibly proud of you both, and I love you deeply. Together with my mother's environmental activism and my dad's interest in the domestic political landscape, I gained an appreciation from a very young age for our nation's democratic institutions. This appreciation was further refined during my time at Governor Stirling Senior High School, until it was completely rebuilt by the former Premier in 2009. Govo was a dilapidated 1950s public high school in Midland. What that old brick and asbestos building lacked, though, in school amenities, it made up for in the quality of its teachers and students. I should take this opportunity now to thank my fellow graduates from Govo who have been with me throughout this entire journey and join us in the gallery this evening. My thanks in particular to Carl Scarfoni, Stephen DeRosa, Daniel Murphy and Christopher Mark Baisden and his wife, Vanessa Murphy. As students growing up in Midland, we were surrounded by near poverty and economic depression. The teachers from Govo were our shining lights to a better future. One in particular left a mark. I would like to take the opportunity this evening to also acknowledge the contribution of Mr. Tony Greenwich. Mr. Greenwich is also in the gallery here this evening and was my history teacher from 2001 to 2004. He not only taught us about the history of WA, but he gave us a hope for our future. Recognising my intense desire in politics, in 2001 he gave me a copy of Machiavelli's The Prince and continued to encourage me to follow my dream. Mr. Greenwich, I could not be here without you. Thank you for your contribution and your inspiration. It was during a visit to the Midland Town Hall in 2004 that I decided it would be a great idea to hand a business card to the then Prime Minister, John Howard, which read, Zak R.F. Kirkup, future PM. After telling Mr. Howard that it would be pretty soon until I held the top job, the handing over of that business card became a catalyst for my arrival here today. I was quickly recruited to join the Liberal Party by former State Director Paul Everingham, and a year after graduating from Govo, I volunteered as an assistant to the Swan Hills campaign, helping out Vince Taskunas, who was the campaign manager at the time. In 2006, while I was going to uni as the first in my family to ever do so, I quickly grew tired as what I saw was a suboptimal use of my time. Without telling my parents, I had started volunteering as a junior research officer for the then leader of the WA opposition. That clandestine volunteer gig, facilitated by Jason Rocky, brought me to the WA Parliament, and it was then and there that I knew that I wanted to serve the people of Western Australia in this Legislative Assembly. I went on to work for the late Senator Judith Adams, accompanying her to both Canberra and to Wheatbelt communities, where we would hold town halls. My time with Judith taught me about the importance of connecting with those you are elected to represent. After a range of tests conducted by the Federal Secretariat, I was then asked to join the WA Liberal Party head office as a campaign officer under Mark Neame. Our efforts bucked the trend in 2007 during the federal election and saw us gain seats where other states lost them, and government was handed over to then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. I went on to become Deputy State Director under Ben Morton, where, together with a huge effort from everyone on many members on this side of the House, we went on to secure victory in the 2008 state election. It was the alignment of all of these experiences and election victories that saw me offered what I consider the most defining career I've ever had until my election here today. At age 22, I was asked to join the office of the 29th Premier. I would like to take this opportunity now to thank the member for Cottesloe for all the opportunities he gave me. I am confident that history will reflect on him as having been one of the most important premiers to have ever served this state. It will be my lifelong privilege to have worked for the former Premier as one of his advisors and then stand beside him as one of his candidates. To the member for Cottesloe, thank you for all that you've taught me and, most importantly, for your contribution to this great state. Few will ever understand what it means to work as an advisor to the WA Premier, or to a WA Premier. It is a career that takes all you give to it and still expects more. It is your job, if you do it right, that there is no such thing as a work-life balance. For as a policy advisor, your job, it sees your weekends absorbed. It means you miss family events and sees you spend incredibly long, sometimes grueling hours on a single issue. However, the opportunity to help create and implement policy that benefits this great state is one that I will cherish forever. I greatly enjoy being a policy advisor, not only out of a deep respect for the member for Cottesloe, but because I wanted to do everything possible to help him deliver a better government and a better state. For everything that the former Premier has ever given me, none was more important than the opportunity he gave me in finding the love of my life. Michelle Gadalla, who is also in your gallery tonight, Madam Acting Speaker, and I both worked for the Premier at the same time in his office. And it was in the halls of One Parliament Place that we fell in love. Michelle, at just age 27, you've been thrust into a position of being the partner of a parliamentarian, a daunting responsibility for which you did not seek out. I am so thankful for all that you have sacrificed, all that you have given, all of your support, and all of your wisdom. As a young professional woman, I am in constant awe of all that you continue to achieve. You are faultless, truthful, beautiful, and intelligent. I am so proud to call you my better half, and I am blessed to have found you. For the benefit of all in this place, I will save the more emotional indulgences for our wedding in 263 days. However, suffice to say, Michelle, I would not be here for it if it was not for you. Thank you, and I love you greatly. Mr. Speaker, after the 2013 election and recognising now that I'd found the person I hoped to one day marry, I sought to leave the volatility of politics and gain experience in the private sector. I secured a job with BGC, working for some of the finest men that I've ever come across. With the help of Kelvin Ryan and Julian Ambrose, who are in your gallery tonight, I was able to commercialise my skill set and genuinely contribute to a company with a proud heritage in Western Australia. There are many people around Perth, Perthonalities as they are sometimes called, who could learn much from Kelvin and Julian. These men spend far more time working and helping others than they do on self-promotion. I would not have stood for pre-selection without either of them. They are both titans of Western Australia, and I'm proud to call them my friends. The sobering reality is that my time in BGC never really quenched my unrelenting desire to enter politics. I loved working at BGC, but I loved the idea of working for the people of Dawesville that much more. I was encouraged by a number of people in the gallery here this evening to seek pre-selection. I should take this opportunity to specifically thank the team known only as ICQ. To Samuel Calabrese, Ben Allen and Tom White, thank you for your encouragement. You are all far better men than I could ever hope to be. After being pre-selected, the 2017 Dawesville Campaign Committee was formed, and we undertook an exhaustive effort to win a seat that was, in the last 23 years that it was created, has only ever been held by two Liberals in Arthur Marshall and Dr. Kim Hames. They're two men who have given me great counsel since pre-selection, and I thank them both for their contribution. As evidenced by my presence here today, we went on to hold Dawesville in what was the most difficult electoral circumstances in the history of our party. I am incredibly thankful to the more than 230 people who volunteered and gave their time or money or both in our campaign. In particular, I'd like to thank those who served on my campaign committee and joined me in the gallery this evening: Amanda Burton, Linda Christie, Glenda Cooper, Robert Cooper, Kim Hames, Corey Harding, Tony Ianello, Ron Taggart, Gaynor Sanders and Phil Vigoni. My thanks also to State Director Andrew Cox and Deputy Director Samuel Calabrese and their team for their contributions to my election. Locally, we worked hard to ensure that we met and spoke with as many people as possible. We didn't take the district of Dawesville for granted. We listened to their concerns of our community and worked hard to raise on their behalf the issues that they raised with us. I wanted to ensure that people knew that how hard I campaigned would be how hard I'd work if I was elected as their member of Parliament. I wish to again thank the people of the District of Dawesville for their support, and in particular those who shared their experiences and issues with me during the campaign. Madam Acting Speaker, I am proud of Mandurah and the Peel region. Our unique and beautiful environment is only exceeded by the generosity, strength and warmth of our community. Too often we focus on the many challenges that our town faces, and absolutely it has its fair share, But there is a much deeper story to Mandurah. It is a story of people who stand up, who volunteer, who help each other out, who smile and still say hi when you're out walking on a Sunday morning. It's a story where people who face those challenges head on, and I'm proud to have their backs. I am thankful that I am not alone in this respect. In Mandurah, there are actually 2 representatives in this place that look after our community, and more often than not, they've been from opposing political parties. As a result, the members for Dawesville and Mandurah have a historic and established special relationship, which I do not believe is replicated anywhere else in Western Australia. Indeed, it was the former member for Dawesville, Arthur Marshall, who told me that between these 2 members, there would always be a master and an apprentice. By virtue of his age, experience, service, and what appears to be partially thinning hair, I suspect that I am now that apprentice, and it is a pleasure to be so to such a good man. Leader of the House, thank you for your guidance, counsel and support up to and since my election in this place. I look forward to continuing to work with you to help make our community an even better place. And as I look to those many years to come, I think it's important to reflect on the history of this parliament. It is worth noting that we are standing in the very place which has voted in favour of a series of oppressive and draconian pieces of legislation which sought to restrict and oppress the rights of all Aboriginal people, which, Madam Acting Speaker, also included members of my family. In 1904, Thomas Kirkup was forbidden by the resident Geraldton magistrate to marry his fiancée because he didn't have the consent of the Chief Protector of Aborigines. As a result of measures passed in this place, Aboriginal people could not marry freely because it was then the view of this chamber that they should try to, quote, breed out the colour of Aboriginal Australians. My grandfather Brian was born in 1941, an Aboriginal man from the Midwest, and it was a result of decisions made in this place that he, for much of his life, was unable to own property freely, to move freely, to own a business freely, or to marry freely. When my father Robert was born in 1962, his Aboriginality meant that he would not have been counted as an Australian in the National Census held 4 years after his birth. My family history is not unique. For centuries of European settlement, Aboriginal people have been discriminated against, segregated and oppressed because of decisions made where I stand today. I do not mention this to be controversial. We should never forget the past. And I believe we are far better served in the spirit of meaningful reconciliation to come together as Western Australians. Madam Acting Speaker, can I seek an extension of time, please?
Extension granted.
Recently, there has been an unfortunate hostility which has engulfed members of our community. There are those who seek to redefine many of the events and principles we consider important to our national identity. They suggest that we change the date of Australia Day or have a separate national anthem. We should not allow the discourse in our community to be exploited by those wishing to perpetuate the pains of our past for their own ideological gain. Instead, we should celebrate the opportunities that exist and continue to work together in strong partnership to build a better state. The recognition of my family's history will continue to remind me that our place in this parliament is to forever guard against the infringement of personal rights and freedoms that have been granted to us by God. In all decisions we make in this parliament, we must now not allow ourselves to be dictated to out of fear for the direction of contemporary commentary of the day, and instead we must adopt a long-term view to always represent, protect and serve all Western Australians, no matter their race, religion, gender or sexuality. In the adoption of that longer-term view, Mr Speaker, Madam Acting Speaker, I would like to outline what I see as 2 challenges which confront our state over the coming years, for which this parliament, I believe, should take action to address. We all know that Western Australia's prosperity has been dominated by the agriculture and resources industry. In a globally competitive environment, though, I fear these 2 industries alone will not maintain our state's economic dominance. In order for WA to continue to go from strength to strength, we must continue to diversify our economic base. With that in mind, I put to this place that we need to enable our state to become a world leader in embracing new technologies. As at 2017, the global economy is edging ever forward towards the commercialisation of a range of new disruptive technologies that will prove ever challenging for governments to address. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, diversified energy generation and storage, genetic engineering, memory technology and quantum computing are just some of the areas for which we know will have a substantial impact on Western societies once commercialised. Sadly though, for all of Western Australia's entrepreneurial spirit, governments, past and present, have not accommodated those emerging industries and ideas as much as I hoped we would. We cannot expect to be competitive and leaders in the Asia-Pacific region if we still debate whether or not basic concepts like Uber and Airbnb have a place in our society. As the youngest member of this chamber, and indeed of the Liberal Party, I hope to frame the discussion that we should embrace, not reject these emerging technologies. Our state needs to have an openness towards these new and disruptive ideas, and this Parliament should seek to introduce a flexible legislative environment to allow these technological advances to take hold and to flourish right here in WA. Like every new technology, they will present challenges to the nature of our society, but I am certain that with a typical Western Australian zeal, we will overcome them, and in so doing, we will build an even better state and continue our dominance in the Asia-Pacific. Mr Speaker, Madam Acting Speaker, in the theme of continuing to help build an even better state, I wish to raise the only other issue that I believe this Parliament should address as a matter of urgency, and that is the inequality of the GST. Already touched on this evening by my friend, the member for Hillary's, we all know that WA does not receive its fair share for what it contributes to the Federation. Every sandgroper in WA knows that the GST system is fundamentally broken insofar as our state is concerned. For too long, this broken system seeks to compensate mendicant, backward states like Tasmania for turning their lonely island in, to quote the 29th Premier, a national park. For too long, this broken system punishes WA for its success. For too long, all members of this place have fought hard with little or no change within the Federation. I have a message for my federal parliamentary colleagues this evening. Western Australians are sick and tired of the enshrined inequity that is the GST. We are sick and tired of continuing to contribute so much to this nation and receiving so little in return. We are sick and tired of supporting a federation which is culturally, societally and importantly financially predisposed towards supporting the eastern states. West Australians are fed up that for far too long we have operated within the bounds of procedures, agreements and convention. They don't care how they get it done. The people of this state want this issue resolved soon. That's why, Madam Acting Speaker, if Western Australia is to continue to be the great state that I know it to be, then we need to exercise far more financial and intergovernmental independence than we currently do in order to force about a change. So long as this inequity continues, I urge this place to commence a responsible, considered and staged withdrawal of the majority of the intergovernmental agreements for which WA is a participant and move towards greater financial independence. Where we can, where there is no negative impact to our national security or the provision of vital services, the Western Australian Government should start to rid ourselves of this cooperation with Canberra if the inequity continues. These may seem like drastic measures, Madam Acting Speaker, but we are not elected here to uphold unfair agreements made in the meeting rooms of Parliament House in Canberra. We are here today to listen and take action on behalf of those who elected us, and they are crying out for more action to be taken. We must not continue to sacrifice our state's future in order to provide an even greater future and greater fortune to states like South Australia and Tasmania. This Parliament needs to do all we can to rally against the notion that WA should continue to lick the boot that kicks us. For my part in this place, I will do all I can to try and restore that equality or help move us closer to intergovernmental and financial independence. We need to stand up for WA, we need to get our fair share, and which will in turn ensure that our state governments are well resourced to help contribute to build an even better WA. Our Parliament should embrace new concepts and technologies while ensuring that we protect the personal freedoms of our citizens. We should ensure that our historic economic contributors continue to earn us our fair share of the GST. Madam Acting Speaker, I am blessed today that my lifelong dream has become true. I have the honour of representing the citizens of the District of Dawesville and in serving the state of Western Australia, whose citizens represent the fabric of the greatest state in the greatest nation on earth. WA deserves representatives and a government that listens to them and acts on their behalf. We should never forget that in this place, that we are here to serve them first and foremost. I again thank the people of the District of Dawesville for their vote and their confidence. I will do all I can to ensure that as your elected representative, I will work hard for you and work hard with everyone in this place to help make WA an even better state. Thank you, Madam Acting Speaker. Thank you.